I just booked my tickets to Fashion Week. It is currently the 2nd, and Fashion Week is on the 9th, which means that I have 6 full days to prepare. And here's the catch. I want to make all of my outfits. My first needle broke. And welcome to our first official night. I leave for New York Fashion Week tomorrow at 6 a.m. Can I do it? I'm not sure. We're gonna find out. Closer and closer it got to Fashion Week with no hotels booked, no modes of transportation booked. The more I feel like most people would be like, you know what, it's just not in the cards. We're gonna pass this year. But for me, the higher the pressure got, the more I wanted to go. Can I create and sew outfits for Fashion Week in 6 days? I have no idea. But I have been planning. I have so many designs in this little book that I have just been planning and dreaming up in my mind and hoping I can bring to life. I'm not gonna be creating anything from scratch. I'm gonna be repurposing things that I've thrifted or pieces of fabric that I've thrifted. A couple months ago when I started thinking like maybe I'll go to Fashion Week, the first thing that came to mind was wearing vintage pieces and repurposing vintage and thrifting pieces and sewing them into my own design. Thrifted fashion, vintage fashion, repurposed fashion is the future of fashion. Hoping that these designs can come to life, the image in my head can become a reality. We need to get started. Welcome to my floor. In this big hamper thing, I have just a ton of pieces that I'm thinking of doing something with. I think I'm gonna start with this. I like this because I feel like once I create it, I'm gonna be able to also still be able to wear it as a skirt if I want to by just folding down the top half. So here's my vision. You can see I've drawn it out. I want the dress to basically go as an underbust. I'm gonna just try and make it as floofy as possible. Then I have this really pretty thrifted scarf that I got at the Goodwill bins. And I feel like this will be a beautiful top piece. They together just look so stunning. This dress was probably the trickiest thing I made out of all the designs. I spent a total of 2.5 days on it just to not wear it to Fashion Week because
completely critical and very, very particular, and
it was Virgo season. But I'm still gonna show you it because honestly I'm proud. I love it a lot more now than I did in my perfectionistic state. But anyway, I pinned it around this elastic band that I measured to my underbust and sewed that, holding the elastic taut so that it would add a bit of extra ruffle, which was absolutely the hardest thing I have ever done. My machine quite literally started smoking, and I was terrified I was going to break it on the first project, but alas, I persevered. A bobbin change later and about 2 videos from the craft moms on YouTube, and my first needle broke. And I'm literally on the first project. I'm starting to freak out a little bit. I'm like, is this gonna work? But no, I'm gonna breathe. This is part of sewing. It's fine. I'm just gonna replace the needle and keep going. That was literally the hardest thing I've ever done. The needle literally broke like 3 times. That was a mess. This fabric is really tough, but I did it. This is just the sleeve from my leotard. So now I just need to sew this top part. I think I'm just gonna sew it here first, and then we'll figure out how to attach it. Given how tricky it was to sew around last time, I'm kind of avoiding sewing on this fabric again. Okay, I just had a mini freak out because I was not liking how this was looking, but then I sat with it for a little bit. I realized it has pockets, and I'm starting to feel better. Because this fabric was literally so hard to sew through, I just might wear it like this. And I'm not even gonna attach these two, and that way I can still wear this as a skirt if I want to. I think I do want to play with straps, and I want them to be really long so I can have bows on both of my shoulders. If there's anything I learned during this process, it's that a bow can fix anything. I decided on black ribbon for the straps and measured them pretty long and then just cut 2 to match. Next I pinned both of them on me, and here's another thing I learned. You have to pin something and take it off your body. Use a safety pin instead of a pin. It's called a safety pin for a reason. You will get pricked by normal pins. So I measured where I wanted them to go and safety pinned it in place so I'd know exactly where to sew, which was ridiculously easy to just sew the couple stitches to attach them. I'm so excited for how this is going. Right now these still aren't attached. And this comes down here, but I think I want to stay true to my original design. I think I want to do the full-on, like very short bust area. My sewing machine was not handling this fabric very well, so I kind of wanted to avoid that, but I need to like show myself exactly where I need this to go. Oops, that's not that's not sewed on yet. So that I can actually take it off myself, I'm going to safety pin it. Good evening. And welcome to our first official night of sewing. Cheers, I think it's gonna be a long night. Now I just have to figure out, I guess they both need to be inside out. It was an absolute math problem trying to figure out how to attach these, but it ended up being that they were both inside out, and the top, I think, was upside down inside the inside out skirt, if that makes sense. Okay, so I sewed this on. Basically, we're gonna sew something to make sure that that doesn't come down, but I had to just sew on this because this fabric was just too thick. Right now it's hanging funny just because it's on these. But I think I'm gonna basically rip these off right now and then just put the straps on at the very end when I know exactly where they need to go. I was sick and tired of not being able to get into this dress without feeling like I was breaking a rib, so I finally decided to add a zipper, cutting down the back center, and then just sewing the invisible zipper on. I was able to reattach the straps. Everything just got so disoriented while I was sewing things on that it really was just easiest to add these straps at the end. Our next victim is this vintage, what I believe to be wedding dress that is absolutely gorgeous, but it's just too big on me. I really wanted to keep the character and basic idea of the original dress while also making it my own. My friend let me borrow her dress form, and I got busy just pinning the dress in different ways to figure out what I liked till I found a shape that I felt like really kept the main character of the dress with the ruffles and the tiers while also making it just a little bit more fun and also 4'11" friendly because I'm 4'11". This is dangerously one of the funnest things I've ever done. I'm literally just having such a blast, like pinning this in different ways. I feel like one of Cinderella's little mice when they're like all pinning the dress. I got these tiny little bows at Joann's in the clearance area and thought it would be so cute to sew one at every stitch that I stitched up the ruffles. It's now the next day. I stayed up till like 2 in the morning pinning this, so now I'm gonna sew it all together. I'll try and do at least one other thing tonight. So I settled in with Gilmore Girls geared up in the background and began sewing each ruffle up and each bow on in the process, which I decided to do by hand, which was tedious, but it just made more sense than trying to sew it all with the machine, especially because I was adding the bows. And honestly, this was very relaxing, and don't be afraid of a little bit of hand sewing. The first one is on. So cute. I was literally putting the water on to boil for my mac and cheese. A brilliant idea came to me, and then I ran in here and tried it out. You guys. Like, is this not kind of the coolest dress you've ever seen? Like I said before, there's nothing a bow can't make amazing. Only a little bit hard for me to give up the pink, but I feel like the black is just something different for me. It's like a little bit more out of my comfort zone. It doesn't look like all of my other dresses. A little bit more fall, which is kind of what I was going for originally. I'm literally sitting here staring at it in awe. You're kidding. This ribbon, by the way, I got in an antique store today, and it was used to wrap all of this vintage fabric that I think I'm going to use for something else. But now I'm going to go and get my mac and cheese. Several tedious hours, 3 cups of tea, and multiple Gilmore Girl episodes later, I had finished sewing all of the little black bows to the bottom and finished off with the giant queen bow. Last but not least, in order to keep things pushing, I did this super easy little DIY trick where you sew ribbons to both sides where you want the dress to cinch. And then all you do is tie it in a bow in the back, which will automatically cinch it in. By far my favorite lazy sewing trick. Good evening. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to question my grasp on reality. I've also never believed in zodiac so much. I feel like this is the epitome of what would happen to a Virgo during Virgo season. A delusion of reality that makes me believe that I can just do anything. I am 100% capable of making an entire basically line of my own clothing for Fashion Week, and then also not wanting to budge on that at all. Like, now that I have it in my head, There's no way I'm showing up with any previously owned Princess Polly. So anyway, we're proceeding. On the chopping block tonight, we have this vintage petticoat that I'm going to turn into a dress. This was hands down my favorite design that I made. I love using vintage petticoats as dresses because they're so easy to upcycle. There's nothing I love more than a vintage petticoat and a bow. The elastic band at the top means that it'll already stay up as a dress, and there's already such a fun shape. I was going for a Selkie-S dress and began by just playing around. I pulled up the center to create a bodice. There's so many little variations I feel like you could do, and I added some little lace straps. Then I just started adding details like these little bows, because would it really be one of my designs without a bunch of little bows? I just hand sewed these on, and I made sure to sew the layers together where I sewed the bows in on the seams of that bodice area so that the under layer of the petticoat wouldn't shift under the top layer, ruining the shape. This felt like a much needed meditation for my brain that at this point was freaking out and full on Virgo plummeting, overthinking everything. That little voice was telling myself it was probably time to just throw in that towel and go ahead and cancel all my reservations. But nevertheless, this design completely reboosted my confidence. This design really just kind of helped me pull it together. I did sew this white ribbon on the top just to kind of cover up the elastic, but I didn't sew it all the way around because then you could just leave the two ends and then they would tie in another bow in the back and would also tighten it up. Switching out the bow color, which you'll see in the final product, but this pink is also so cute. I feel like I'm probably just gonna switch it out whenever I'm feeling in the mood for something different, and boom, I have a brand new dress. The Selkie dresses are probably my favorite thing fashion-wise. I really wanted to capture that big, puffy, dramatic sleeve that their Selkie dresses have, and also have something that I could wear with a bunch of these outfits. So I decided to make sleeves, originally to finish off this poof dress, but I ended up using these sleeves for like so many of the outfits. I even used my first pattern, so I just cut out the sleeve. Yes, I followed directions. You know, guys, patterns are funny to me because I love to cook, but I don't love to follow a recipe. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what these patterns are like. Like, I love to sew, but I don't like to follow a pattern. So once I had the pattern cut out, I then just folded up this bit to basically create a channel that the elastic band would go through. I measured the elastic to my shoulder and then also to my arm where I wanted the sleeve to close. I then fed this elastic through the channel that I had just created. I sewed the channel and then fed that elastic through the channel with a safety pin by just pulling it all the way through. And then I did the exact same to the rest of the sleeve by just pinning down that channel and then sewing it along, but so that something could fit through it, basically. So leaving both ends open. This will make a lot more sense when you're actually sewing. But these were probably the #1 best thing I made for Fashion Week because I was able to use them in like every outfit. I am so sorry, I guess I forgot to film the end, but basically then you just sew the two ends of the elastic together on each end of the sleeve and then just close any holes that are left. I'll link a video below. This dress I ended up adding more to when I was actually in New York, but here I just did something super quick. I just adjusted the straps to make them a little bit tighter, and when I did that, I just added 2 little tiny bows on each shoulder. It was so easy, but so cute. You'll see it soon. I leave for New York Fashion Week tomorrow at 6 a.m. So it is currently 5 o'clock, the day before I leave. Why do I always start so late? Like, what was I doing all day today? Anyway, I still need to pack. But priorities. We have this really pretty slip dress that I actually got just a little bit ago. I think it's stunning. I got it because it just gives me like big ballerina vibes. It's like pinker than I feel like it's showing up on camera, but I love it. It's beautiful. It also looks terrible on me. Got a ton of tulle, and I think I want to literally make a tutu. I started by measuring the elastic to my waist and then trying to sew the tulle on how you usually sew a ruffle, where you just stretch the elastic while you sew and then it ruffles it. Okay, so that's like cute and all. And you know, it would be cute if I was trying to do just a basic skirt, but I'm not. So I went to the crafty moms of YouTube and TikTok, and they saved me once again. A really cool technique that actually doesn't involve any sewing, so we're gonna do that instead. 'Twas the night before Fashion Week, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, except for me, because it was 5 o'clock and I was set to leave for New York at 6 a.m. the next morning. Did that happen? No, but we're getting there. I laid out my new rug, and then I cut the tulle into about 6-inch sections that went all the way down. I believe I had about 4 yards of tulle to begin with, but honestly, I couldn't tell you. Then I measured how long I wanted the skirt to be, which is about a foot. So then I doubled that and cut that length out of the sections that I had already cut. I'm so sorry if that didn't make sense. That honestly sounded like a word problem from one of the many math classes I barely passed. But never fear, I'll link the crafty moms below. Then all I had to do was basically bend these sections that I had cut in half. You basically just want to cut as many of these as you can. However you want to cut them, they just need to be the length that you want your skirt, and then about, I don't know, 3 to 6 inches wide. Then all I had to do was basically bend them over the elastic that was already measured to my waist. I hope the visual is making sense. I just wanted this to feel really magical and theatrical. I used to love dance so much, specifically ballet. So this dress kind of was made as a reclaiming of that. I, like probably many of you, went through a very toxic situation with dance where I had dance teachers that just kind of ruined my love for it. It's definitely something I really want to get back into. But in the meantime, I can make a dress. This dress kind of just felt like a big take that to my high school ballet teacher, who told me at a mere age of 16 that I should probably quit because I would never be a prima ballerina and because I'd never ever have the body type for it, and that I should quit and that she could see my lunch. No ballet teacher who shall not be named. I did not end up a prima ballerina or a professional dancer of any means, but I did end up wearing this ballet dress to New York Fashion Week, so take that. What I originally didn't like about this dress was the way that it fit on me, so I did these 2 little stitches to just make this like rounded shape that I thought was a lot more flattering and looked really pretty under the tutu. It was totally worth it staying up till 4 a.m. finishing this dress. However, because I did stay up till 4 a.m. finishing this dress and didn't start packing until about 4:15 on the dot, I did end up having to change my flight to noon instead of 6 a.m. because otherwise I don't think I would have been okay. And then the moment we've all been waiting for. I was finally off. And now I'm going to bed. Cue the clip. Some sort of miracle really overtook us this week. I honestly don't know how we did it, but we did. You're gonna have to stay tuned for part 2 to actually see all the outfits. I'm so sorry, but I love you, and stay tuned.